The Department of Health and Human Services is trying to no longer count trans people under the protections guaranteed by Title IX. I'm Nathan Seelove, and this is Factually Biased. So in the 2016 Republican National Convention, Donald Trump made history by saying that he would protect the LGBTQ community from the violence and oppression of a hateful and foreign ideology. Now, he was referring to fundamentalist Muslims, but this represented the first time that a Republican candidate for president acknowledged that LGBTQ people do need special protections. And at the time, I was very hopeful. I thought that maybe this meant that in this specific area, this administration might not be a major step back for LGBTQ equality. Unfortunately, I was wrong, because oftentimes the campaigning politician is very different from the governing politician. Fast forward to today, and recently, the Department of Health and Human Services, under Donald Trump's leadership, is trying to define gender as purely biological, thus making it so that trans people do not apply under the gender-based protections guaranteed under Title IX. Now, that makes it so that people cannot be discriminated based on their gender at educational institutions that receive government support. And as it stands, other agencies are trying to follow suit in defining gender in this same way. Now, I understand that there are a lot of people that don't understand what it means to be trans. I understand that there are a lot of people that are confused at the prospect that a person can identify with a gender that is different from the one that was assigned at birth. I understand that that might be confusing to some people. That being said, you can still acknowledge the humanity and the marginalization of another person, even if you don't understand why they are the way they are. And let's look at some facts about that. Let's look at some facts that you should consider. In 30 states, you can be fired for being transgender. 69% of trans people have experienced homelessness. 60 to 70% of trans people have experienced sexual or physical violence at the hands of law enforcement. 64 to 65% of trans people have experienced physical or sexual violence at work. And 63 to 78% of trans people have experienced physical or sexual violence at some level of school. But in my opinion, the most disturbing statistic is the fact that 41% of trans people have attempted to commit suicide at some point in their life. 41%. That is almost half. We live in a society that systematically marginalizes people because they don't fit the right gender mold that has been set in place by society. And you can, like I said, you can not understand why trans people are trans, why they are the way they are, but still acknowledge that if 41% of them have attempted to commit suicide at some point in their life, you can still acknowledge that that is a problem, that that represents institutional marginalization. And with every meme that you share of, there are only two genders, or trans people don't exist, or trans is just a mental illness, you're contributing to that. I'm not saying that you actively want trans people to kill themselves, but you're contributing to that culture that has pushed 41% of trans people to commit suicide. It's because of that cultural otherness that some of them feel that that is their only option. That is a startling statistic. This oppression needs to stop, and this administration is only adding to it. They're not governing the entire country. They're leaving out people. And that is not a representative government. So I hope that all of you remember that the next time you're in a voting booth. We cannot let this stand. We have to call it out. And we cannot ignore the 41% of trans people that have attempted to commit suicide. And we can no longer contribute to the culture that has pushed them to that level. Anyways, that's all I got for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please comment down below. Let me know what you thought. Give it a like, share, maybe subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I hope you have a good week.